What's going on, everyone? My name is Mo Awesome from Awesome MTB. If you're a mountain biker out there, you probably appreciate the fact that your bike has some form of suspension. And if not, you probably ride a rigid single speed, in which case you have way more chops than me. However, for those of us that do appreciate suspension, what you've probably noticed over the last few years is suspension has become increasingly easier to tune ourselves. Gone are the days where you've had to send your fork or rear shock into an aftermarket tuning service to get it feeling just right. And instead what we find ourselves with is with suspension with a lot more adjustments that we can do ourselves to get our suspension feeling perfect. Now I know setting up your suspension can be a little bit intimidating, especially if you're not sure what the different types of adjustments are actually doing. So the goal of this video is to get you a little bit more familiar with different types of suspension setting adjustments and help you dial in your suspension yourself, making sure your suspension feels just perfect when you're out on the trails. The way I'm going to break down this video is actually into 5 different elements. The first is going to be setting your air pressure. The second is going to be the differences between high and low speed adjustments. The third is going to be rebound adjustments. The fourth is going to be compression adjustments. And the fifth is going to be volume reducers. By the end of this video, you should be able to set up your suspension yourself, and you should feel a lot more excited to hit the trails knowing your suspension feels just right. Let's get after it. Now, the first adjustment we're going to be going over today is going to be setting up your air pressure. For me personally, I feel like this is the most crucial set to setting up your suspension just because it really does make or break your ride. Too much air pressure in your fork or rear shock and you're going to get a very harsh feeling from your suspension, and you're never going to get that plush feeling that you really want. Too little bit of air pressure inside there, and what you're going to be feeling is a lot of bottoming out of the suspension, and you're going to be blowing through that travel fairly quick. So the way we're going to set up our air pressure inside our suspension is going to be through something called setting up your sag. I'll be sure to make a video onto how to properly set up your sag a little later on, but for now let's go over what sag is. So what sag is, it's essentially how much that suspension is actually being compressed when you're seated on there. So this is a fork, and what you notice here is you have this O-ring. This is going to be your sag indicator. So when you get on your bike fully geared up, so with your CamelBak on, how much the suspension actually sags down, that's going to be your sag. On your fork, you should be shooting for about 25 to 30% sag. So that's going to be that distance right here after you've weighted your suspension down. On your rear shock, depending on what frame manufacturer it is, you're probably going to be shooting anywhere from 25 to 33% sag. Now, the coolest thing about these sag indicators is that they can actually also help you determine if you have too much air or too little air after you go on your ride as well. So say you go for a ride and you have a lot of big hits, a lot of rollers, a lot of drops, and you notice that this O-ring indicator has shot all the way up. That's a very good indication that you are bottoming out your suspension, and you most likely need to put a little bit of air inside there. Now, don't get me wrong, you shouldn't be too scared about bottoming out your suspension. It is going to happen from time to time, especially if you have your suspension set up right to where you're utilizing all of your travel. However, if you're bottoming out your suspension multiple times a ride, that is a good indicator that you should be putting a little bit of air back into your fork or rear shock. Now, if you go for that same ride, very aggressive ride, and you notice that your suspension O-ring indicator is only at that, say that 75% mark, that's a very good indicator that you have too much air pressure inside there, and you might want to take a little bit out at a time, say probably 2 to 5 PSI. Just small increments to kind of really dial that suspension in. But for now, that's going to be the basics into adjusting your air pressure. It's something that's super straightforward, but I find overlooked by a lot of riders, so now you know. Now, the second thing we're going to be talking today is going to be the differences between high speed adjustments and low speed adjustments. So as we go further into these suspension settings, what you'll probably notice is on both the rebound and compression, you're going to have 2 different forms of those adjustments. You're going to have the high speed adjustments and the low speed adjustments. Now, don't let the first word fool you. High and low speed has nothing to do with how fast the rider is actually moving. It's actually more to do with how fast your suspension is being compressed. So you can be moving 30, 40 miles an hour and still be affecting the low speed compression. So to kind of go over this, low speed is where we're going to start off with. Low speed adjustments are going to be that initial part of travel. So that top initial stroke, that's going to be your low speed adjustments. So say you're flying down a trail, I'm going to use a local example like the luge. That initial trail chatter, that's going to be your low speed adjustment. So even though you're traveling at a very fast speed, that initial travel is what we're looking at here in terms of low speed adjustments. Now that we have the differences between high and low speed adjustments, we can go over to the third topic, which is going to be rebound. Rebound is going to be how fast your suspension comes back after you compress it. So if your suspension is set up too fast, what you might notice is suspension that feels like a pogo stick. It's going to feel like you're bouncing around on there, whether it's your fork or rear shock, whatever one is set up a little bit too fast. Suspension rebound that is too slow is going to feel like it's packing up. So as you go down a trail, you're basically compressing when you hit something, and your suspension is not coming back in time because it's moving too slow before the next obstacle. So your suspension is packing down, it'll feel harsh, it won't feel that great. So the way you're going to be adjusting your fork or your shock's rebound is going to be via the rebound knob. On a fork, say like a Fox 36 RC2, where this is going to be located is actually on the bottom fork leg. So right here, this red knob right here, this is going to be the rebound knob. Normally it's going to be protected by this black cap. I have seen a few riders out there who have turned this knob, this cap, thinking that that's what's actually going to adjust the rebound and say, hey Mo, my fork feels broken, the rebound knob's not working. All this is doing is protecting that red knob, and that's actually what's adjusting your rebound. Now, the way you're going to do this on a Fox fork, on RockShox forks, adjustments for rebound are super easy because they use a turtle and a rabbit. I'll leave it to you guys to figure out which one is going to be fast and which one's going to be slow. On Fox forks though, it's a little bit more professional. You have a plus and a minus. So the way I remember it is when I do plus, I'm adding rebound, so I'm going to be slowing my suspension down. Minus is going to be taking away a rebound, and that's going to be speeding it up. So that's the way you're going to adjust it on a Fox 36 RC2. On something, say like a rear shock, like a Fox Float X2, it's going to be a little bit more complicated. So this is where we're going to go back into high and low speed adjustments. So on a Fox X2, you actually have blue and you have red adjustments. The blue are going to be compression. We're not going to deal with that now. We're going to deal with that in a little bit. The red is actually going to be your rebound. And the way you're going to adjust the rebound is via two Allen keys. A 6mm Allen key and a 3mm Allen key. A 6mm Allen key is actually going to be adjusting your high speed rebound. So remember, high speed is going to be big hits like rock drops, rock rolls, big jumps. Anytime your suspension is compressing rapidly with a lot of force, that's going to be your high speed adjustment. So that'll be that 6mm. You're basically just going to put it inside here and you're going to adjust your high speed rebound. Now, for whatever reason, Fox made it a lot easier for riders. So they actually put slow rebound one way and speed up rebound another. So you're not dealing with pluses and minuses. I think that's very convenient. Now, if you want to make a low speed rebound adjustment, you're going to take a 3mm Allen key and you're basically going to put it inside here. It's pretty cool. Fox basically designed it so it just kind of fits right inside, and that's going to be adjustments to your low speed rebound. So remember, low speed adjustments, that's going to be that initial part of travel, that trail chatter. But yeah, so that's going to be the X2, and I'll give you guys one more shock just for a little bit kind of reference. This is a Fox Float DPX2. As you guys probably noticed in one of my earlier videos, this is my personal favorite rear shock, but the way you're going to be adjusting rebound on here, same thing, it's going to be a red adjustments. However, you do lose the independent high and low speed rebound adjustment, so you just have this knob over here, but it is labeled slow and fast, so Fox did make it a little bit easier for most riders. So the fourth adjustment we're going to be talking today is going to be compression adjustments. Compression settings are basically going to affect how much force it's going to take to compress your suspension down. So say you're a 200-pound plus rider like me and you ride really aggressive trails, you're going to want your suspension to be a little bit on the firmer side just so you're not blowing through that travel too quickly. You want a little extra support. You're going to be basically increasing that compression setting on there to make your fork feel a little bit firmer. Say you want your fork to feel a little bit plusher, a little softer, you might end up kind of backing up your compression a little bit, making your fork feel a little on the softer side. And that's the cool thing with the compression settings, is you can really dial in that fork. Now, going back to the differences between high and low speed adjustments, that's going to play a crucial part to setting up your compression settings. So the cool thing with compression settings is sometimes riders want the best of both worlds. They want a super soft initial stroke and they want a lot of support on bigger hits. That's going back to high and low speed adjustments. So for that low speed, like I said, that initial part of travel, you want that thing to feel super buttery smooth, a little bit on the softer side. You're going to set up your compression settings very soft on that part. So that's going to be your low speed compression adjusting. And now say you want a lot more high speed support. So on big hits, you want a lot more firmer feeling fork. Then you're going to dial in your high speed compression. So that's going to be big hits, big rock rollers, anything that you're really blowing through that travel, you're going to firm that thing up, and that's going to be your high speed compression adjustment. So like I said, the ability to tune the low and high speed compression settings independently does play a very crucial part for a lot of riders out there. So it's a really nice adjustment to have. On forks like the Fox 36 RC2, you do get that setting adjustments via this top channel over here. And on shocks like, say, the Fox Float X2, you also get that compression setting. It's going to be very similar to the Rebound, where it's going to use a 6 and a 3 mil. However, this time you're going to be adjusting the blue tab, and it also says firm and soft, so it'll tell you which way to actually go. Unfortunately, with shocks like the Fox Float DPX2 and the Fit 4 dampener from Fox and a couple of other forks, you don't necessarily get the ability to tune high and low speed compressions independently. However, you can still tune your fork a little bit further without those compression adjustments, and that's going to be through our fifth topic, which is going to be volume reducers. So if you've been watching this whole video, you've probably learned about air pressure, you've learned about the differences between high and low speed adjustments, we've gone over compression, we've gone over rebound. You might be asking yourself, Mo, what else is there to tune? So companies like Fox and RockShox have realized that riders want to make one other adjustment to the progression of their fork or rear shock, and the way they achieve that is through volume reducers. So the cool thing with volume reducers, it's actually going to affect the progression of your fork. So you're going to basically get a very soft, controlled feeling that initial part of travel. But as you start going through the travel, the progression of the fork is going to change a little bit. So you're going to get a little bit more bottom out support the more volume reducers you actually use. So some of you might be thinking, wait, if you can adjust high speed compression, why do you need volume reducers? Well, that's because if I tune my fork to where the high speed compression feels very good, so on big hits I have that support I want, I might not necessarily want that same support through that entire part of travel on bigger hits. I might want a little bit more bottom out support towards the end part of travel, and I'm gonna achieve that through volume reducers. So that's one more cool adjustment that Fox and RockShox offers through their forks and rear shocks, so something you should look into. But yeah, that's volume reducers. Right on, guys. If you guys made it through that whole video, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope that I've helped a few riders out there learn about the different suspension setting adjustments that they can make. So hopefully you can go out there, set up your suspension, help tune it yourself, and get your suspension feeling exactly the way you want it. So I really enjoyed making this video. If you've been enjoying the stuff I've been putting out there, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. I really appreciate all the support. If I haven't answered any of your questions in regards to suspension setting adjustments, be sure to leave it in the comment section, or even comment what you want to see in the next video. But right on, guys. Until next time, ride awesome. You!